Hey everybody. So yeah, we're still working on validation. I think it's going to be interesting. I do think that when I first started this project, I knew I was going to move through multiple phases, and the first phase would be probably about a year long, and it would be a proof of concept. And at that phase, at the end of that point, I would make a decision on whether I could continue to work after the proof of concept was complete on the existing code, or if I was going to have to start from scratch. And my gut tells me that in all likelihood, I'll be able to continue, but there's a good chance that I'll have to start from scratch. Most applications I've ever seen, no matter like everybody always thinks that they can continue with their proof of concept, but usually that's a mistake. So I knew that one of my blind spots, that one of the weak parts of my experience would be on the importing. And I also knew that in my personal experience, that is generally a killer, a poison pill for most applications. Once you start trying to, for most web applications, so once you start trying to import things from external sources, you end up having all kinds of anti patterns that start to present themselves, and you just end up with a disaster. And 9 times out of 10, they just have to sort of abandon and start from scratch again, and generally they screw it up the next time too. So I did not want to do that, but if I did do it, I wanted to make sure that I understood why it was messed up, because what's the point of having, like, you learn the most from your failures, but like unless you're paying attention, you won't learn from your failures. You'll just keep having the same failures and over again. And yeah, I knew that this validation piece was going to be somehow very, very difficult. And so last time I sort in the last at the towards the end of the last video, I kind of went through sort of the machinations of what the problem is here. And the problem is that I have this UI validation service that's sitting up with the rest of my validations inside of a utils folder. And basically, the problem, I knew it was problematic. I knew I had an issue because it has this abstract control and this validation errors. So I didn't know why that was a problem, but after some deep thought, found out it was a problem is because I'm deeply coupling my entire system and my high level services to very, very component level, form level pieces, and that coupling is not going to be good. Um, it's not a good long term kind of situation because in all likelihood, as Angular, as the folks over at Angular get to understand more and more stuff, they'll start to make modifications, and who knows if they one day will get away from this abstract control or get away from that. And but basically, if you just think about it from architectural, I have components down here, I have services up here. I really shouldn't have anything up here that's directly linked to anything that's down here. This guy should hang out by himself. So I realized, and then the practical side of it hit. So, because that is just purely like, I don't know what you'd call it, just purely like, this is generally a bad idea. But from a practical perspective, that's where generally a bad idea generally has some practical implications, and I didn't know what those practical implications were. And then I figured it out. The practical implications are that when I go to do my external imports from external places, I will not be able to reuse this because let's say I'm importing from a CSV file, there are no controls. There's not an abstract control. There is no validation error concept in there. You know, this stuff here, the guts of this stuff needs to be in some other place that other schemes will be able to reuse it so that floating a positive floating point um, validation is the same in both places. Um, So anyways, so now we know that. So we know architecturally, and I did mention that what I need to do is have a more generic validation in here, and then down here at the component level, I need to have another service that has more specific UI validations, and that one should use this higher one, so that, and then what I more realize now is the reason it needs to use that is because at some point when I'm importing from some other system, or I'm interacting with local storage or something like that, I'll need to be able to apply these validations um, in that scenario as well. So the first step on doing that, fortunately, I've done things like that a lot of times, so I'm kind of back into my um, where I feel comfortable is I need to move these two files. And I need to move these two files down into the toolbox. So I'm going to have it, and really I need to have a services folder because this is probably not going to be it. So I'm just going to create a services folder that's inside my toolbox. And these are for UI specific services. Um, and then I'm going to move my UI validation, these two files into that. And then, oh, where are you? Where are you? Where did you go? There you are. And then I believe the IDE will fix it all for me. Um, so the IDE did not fix it for me. Oh, here we go. A little slow, but better late than never. So yes, yes, I would like you to update that. And that's interesting. Import UI validation. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Now it's weird because it typically does fix these things, but it doesn't save it. So then it's still unhappy. Um, but it looks like UI validation service is still broken, even though it said it was going to fix it for me. So I'm just going to delete this. Mouse over here, hope for the blue. Yes, thank you. And save. Let's see what we get down here. I think this guy's probably still this TypeScript. No, that's still good. That's good. Oh no, man, this thing is very unhappy. Let's restart. See what shakes out. Anytime I whistle, I love to whistle. I've always whistled, and then like anytime I do that, it gets my bird going. I think that's one reason why me and my bird get along so well. I don't know if you heard her whistle just now, but so that looks good. What are you complaining about? Maybe not. Maybe that isn't good. Or maybe, oh, it wasn't saved. There we go. So now that's in the right place. So what we also need, and let's see where we are on time, 8:39. So what I'm going to need next is a place to keep this logic, and then I need to import that logic and do it, and then see if the code still works, because the way we're doing the code inside the scene manager is a little bit different than anything else we do. Is we pass it in as sort of a standalone function, even though it looks on the result of this function is a function that is completely tuned or specifically built for the components. So really, like, it's a factory. I really do need to read that Gang of Five book on patterns, but this is actually like a factory function. It returns a function, um, and it will, because of the fact that I returned the function, it will have access to stuff within this um, object, but only if I pass it in, or only if I create a reference here. So anyways, that's going to be a whole thing. Um, and definitely will flex the JavaScript fundamentals of closures and scoping and all that kind of stuff. It'll flex those brain muscles. But for now, we are at 10 minutes and 16 seconds. So that's a great time to sign off. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.